What happens when Hollywood glamour collides with daytime television? When a beloved movie star walks onto a brightly lit stage expecting polite applause, but instead finds herself under a microscope, facing questions she can't dodge. The cameras are rolling, the audience is holding its breath, and one question hangs in the air like a loaded weapon. This isn't just another celebrity interview. This is the moment Blake Lively walked into The View and walked straight into the fire. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, do not forget to subscribe to Prime Talk, hit that like button, and drop a comment below. You do not want to miss stories like this, raw, dramatic, and unfolding right before your eyes. The applause starts the moment Blake Lively steps out. It's warm, enthusiastic, almost reassuring. She smiles, waves, and takes her seat, legs crossed, posture perfect. On the surface, she looks calm, poised, confident, every inch the Hollywood A-lister audiences have adored for years. But beneath that polished exterior, there's tension. Real tension. Because Blake knows why she's here. And so does everyone else. Across the table sits Joy Behar, her expression unreadable. Joy isn't smiling. She isn't hostile either, but there's a seriousness in her eyes that signals this won't be a soft conversation. The kind of seriousness that tells you the gloves are coming off. The segment begins gently enough. Compliments about Blake's career, her longevity in Hollywood, her public image. Blake nods, laughs lightly, thanks the hosts. The audience relaxes. For a brief moment, it feels safe. Then Joy leans forward. "So, Blake," Joy says, her voice calm but deliberate, "we can't ignore what's been dominating headlines lately." The room shifts. You can feel it. The audience murmurs softly, like a warning ripple before a storm. Blake's smile tightens, just a fraction, but it doesn't disappear. Joy continues. The legal feud with Justin Baldoni. The lawsuits. The accusations. Harassment claims on one side, counterclaims on the other. People are confused. Fans are divided. And a lot of people are asking, what really happened? The words hang there, heavy. Blake inhales slowly. This is the moment. The question she knew was coming. The one her publicist probably begged her to deflect. Blake clears her throat. "I understand why people are asking," she says carefully. "And I understand why it's emotional." Joy doesn't let her off the hook. "Emotional is one thing," Joy replies. "But these are serious allegations. Harassment, power dynamics, legal action. Some critics say you've stayed silent for too long. Others say the silence looks calculated. What do you say to people who feel like they are not getting the full truth?" The audience gasps softly. A few heads turn. This isn't casual curiosity anymore. This is confrontation. Blake shifts in her chair. Her hands clasp together, then unclasp. She looks toward the audience for a split second, then back at Joy. "I stayed silent because this is a legal matter," Blake says, her voice steady but edged with emotion. "Because real people are involved. Because words, especially on television, can be twisted and weaponized." Joy raises an eyebrow. "But Blake," she presses, "Justin Baldoni's legal team claims the silence has allowed speculation to run wild. They say your side is controlling the narrative behind the scenes while saying nothing publicly. Is that fair?" That's when the temperature changes. Blake exhales sharply. "With respect, Joy, that's not true. And that's exactly the problem. Everyone thinks they know what's happening without having all the facts." There's a murmur from the crowd. Some nod. Others frown. The divide is visible, tangible. Joy leans back slightly, but her eyes stay locked on Blake. "So you're saying the public has it wrong?" "I'm saying the public is seeing fragments," Blake replies. "And fragments can be dangerous." The camera cuts to the other hosts. One looks uneasy. Another shifts in her seat. This isn't the kind of segment that ends with laughs and applause. This is raw. Joy isn't finished. "There are women watching this show right now," she says firmly, gesturing outward. "Women who've experienced harassment. Who've been silenced. They want clarity. They want accountability. What would you say to them?" Blake's composure cracks, just slightly. Her eyes glisten, not with tears, but with intensity. "I would say I hear you," Blake responds. "I would say I believe you. And I would say that seeking justice doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks careful. Sometimes it looks restrained. And sometimes it looks like protecting yourself while the world demands answers you legally can't give yet." The audience reacts, some applause, some hesitation. It's messy, human, real. Joy tilts her head. But do you understand why people feel you're under fire right now? Blake nods slowly. I do. And I accept that. But being under fire doesn't mean being guilty. It means being visible. That line lands like a punch. The room goes quiet. For a brief second, no one speaks. You can hear the faint shuffle of papers, the hum of studio lights. This is the moment viewers will replay, rewind, debate online. Joy breaks the silence. This isn't personal, Blake. It's accountability. Blake meets her gaze. And this isn't evasion, Joy. It's survival. The audience erupts, half applause, half stunned silence. Social media, though unseen, is already igniting. The camera pulls back slightly as the tension lingers, unresolved. Blake sits upright, shoulders squared, no longer smiling, but not defeated either. Joy sits across from her, thoughtful, unyielding, aware she's pushed the conversation into dangerous territory. And just like that, what started as an interview has become something else entirely, a public reckoning unfolding live, with millions watching, judging, choosing sides. This was only the beginning, because once the cameras kept rolling, the pressure only intensified. The silence doesn't last long. It never does on live television. The tension is too thick, too electric, begging to be stirred again. The camera tightens back onto the table, and Blake can feel it, the invisible weight pressing down on her chest. This is the moment after the first blow, when everyone realizes the fight isn't over. It's just getting started. Joy adjusts her glasses, a subtle movement, but deliberate. Blake, she says, her tone softer now but no less sharp. You said something powerful just now. You said restraint can be survival. But for many people watching, restraint has been forced on them. They didn't choose it. How do you reconcile that? Blake swallows. The studio lights feel hotter. She nods slowly, as if acknowledging the complexity of the question. I don't pretend my experience is the same as anyone else's, she says. I don't speak for every woman. I can only speak for myself and for what my legal team has advised me to do in a situation that's complicated. Joy leans forward again. Complicated because of power, she asks. Or complicated because of reputation? A sharp inhale from the audience. Blake's jaw tightens. Both, Blake admits. Power exists in many forms. Fame is one of them. And yes, reputation matters, because once it's destroyed, there's no courtroom verdict that can fully rebuild it. The camera cuts to the audience. Some people nod in agreement. Others exchange skeptical looks. This isn't a one-sided room. One of the other hosts shifts uncomfortably but stays quiet, sensing that interrupting now would be a mistake. This is Joy's lane, and she's driving straight through the heart of the controversy. Justin Baldoni's counterclaims, Joy continues, suggest that you used your influence to intimidate and control the narrative behind closed doors. That his side felt pressured. That he felt targeted. What's your response to that? Blake's eyes flash, not with anger, but disbelief. That accusation is deeply painful, she says, because it turns the idea of protecting yourself into something sinister. I didn't weaponize my voice. I tried to protect my boundaries. Joy doesn't flinch, but boundaries can look like walls to someone on the other side. Blake pauses. This time, it's longer. Her fingers press into her palm, grounding herself. Joy, she says quietly, when someone says they felt harmed, we listen. But when two people say they were harmed, suddenly the world demands a villain. Real life doesn't always give you one. The audience reacts again, this time louder. A mix of applause and murmurs spreads through the studio. The energy feels volatile now, like a match hovering over gasoline. Joy exhales slowly. So you're saying this isn't about who's right or wrong? I'm saying it's about truth, Blake replies. And truth isn't always comfortable enough for television. That lands hard. Joy sits back, folding her arms loosely. But this is television, she says. And people expect answers here. Blake nods. I know, and I'm giving what I can, without compromising a legal process that will ultimately decide more than public opinion ever could. There's a shift then. A subtle one, but noticeable. Joy's posture changes. She's no longer just pushing. She's listening. Do you feel betrayed? Joy asks suddenly. By how fast public opinion turned. Blake's eyes soften. I feel human, she says. I feel surprised. Hurt. And yes, betrayed sometimes. Because people who once praised my voice now criticize my silence. Joy's expression flickers. Silence is often misread, she admits. Exactly, Blake says, leaning forward now, matching Joy's intensity. And when silence becomes guilt by default, it scares people into speaking before they are ready, or before they are safe. The audience quiets. This isn't just about Blake anymore. This is bigger. Joy glances briefly at the camera, then back at Blake. Do you think this lawsuit will change how celebrities handle accusations in the future? Blake doesn't hesitate. I hope it forces everyone, famous or not, to rethink how quickly we judge, how eagerly we pick sides, and how little room we leave for nuance. The word hangs there, nuance. A word rarely welcomed in outrage-driven headlines. Joy nods slowly. Social media doesn't like nuance, she says. No, Blake replies. It likes certainty, and certainty sells. A ripple of knowing laughter passes through the audience, quickly dying down. Joy straightens in her chair. Let me ask you something directly, she says. If this case doesn't go your way, legally or publicly, are you prepared for what comes next? Blake's breath catches, just for a moment. I don't think anyone is ever prepared for that, she says honestly. But I'm prepared to stand by my truth, even if it costs me. The room is silent again. Not shocked silence this time. Respectful silence. Joy studies her. That's a heavy price. It is, Blake agrees. But silence costs something too. The cameras capture every micro-expression. The tension hasn't disappeared, it's evolved. It's deeper now. Less explosive, more haunting. Joy glances at her notes, then sets them aside. You know, she says quietly, people tune into this show expecting drama. But what they are seeing right now is vulnerability. And that's harder to weaponize. Blake gives a small, weary smile. I hope so. The applause comes this time, measured, thoughtful, not roaring but sincere. Even those who disagree seem moved by the honesty unfolding in front of them. But outside the studio, unseen and relentless, the world is already reacting. Tweets firing off, clips being cut, headlines being drafted. Because while the conversation inside this room has shifted, the storm beyond it is just beginning. The break comes and goes, but the tension never leaves. If anything, it deepens. When the cameras return, the energy in the studio feels different, charged, watchful, as if everyone now understands they are witnessing something that won't be forgotten by the end of the hour. Blake sits a little straighter, shoulders back, as if bracing herself. Joy flips her notes once more, then looks up, her expression more serious than ever. This conversation has clearly struck a nerve, Joy says, glancing briefly toward the audience. And I want to go somewhere a little harder now. Blake nods slowly. She knows what that means. Joy turns fully toward her. There are reports, sworn statements, Blake, that suggest the working relationship between you and Justin Baldoni became hostile long before the lawsuits were filed. That there were warnings, complaints, people behind the scenes who felt something was brewing. Why didn't it stop sooner? A collective inhale ripples through the crowd. This isn't abstract anymore. This is chronology. Accountability. Blake's lips press together. She looks down for a moment, then back up, eyes steady. Because when you're in the middle of something that's unraveling, she says carefully, you don't always recognize it as danger. Sometimes you label it stress, miscommunication, creative tension. Joy tilts her head. Until it's too late. Yes, Blake answers quietly. Until it's too late. The words land heavy. A few audience members shift in their seats. This is no longer celebrity gossip. It's a confession of hindsight. Joy doesn't interrupt. She lets the silence work. Blake continues, her voice stronger now. There's this expectation that strong women always see the red flags immediately. That we're somehow immune to complicated dynamics. But we're not. We second-guess ourselves. We wonder if we're overreacting. And by the time clarity arrives, the damage is already done. Joy nods, slowly, thoughtfully. But critics would argue, she says, that clarity arrived for you, and then the legal machinery followed fast and hard. Blake's brow furrows. Legal action isn't revenge, she says. It's recourse. And choosing that path wasn't easy. It was terrifying. Joy leans in. Terrifying because of him, or because of public backlash. Blake doesn't answer right away. When she does, her voice is almost raw. Because of everything. The audience reacts audibly this time. Someone whispers, someone sighs. The emotion in the room is undeniable. Joy folds her hands together. There are people who believe Justin Baldoni has been unfairly painted, she says. That his counterclaims deserve the same seriousness. Do you believe his lying? Blake's eyes harden, not cruelly, but resolutely. I believe the truth will come out, she says. And I believe the court is the place for that, not sound bites. Joy exhales. But sound bites are what people remember. I know, Blake replies. And that's what scares me. The honesty in her voice cracks something open. For the first time, the audience isn't reacting as a group. They're reacting as individuals, some leaning forward, some shaking their heads, some visibly torn. Joy gestures lightly with her hand. You've built a career on likability, she says. On being approachable. Relatable. Do you feel that slipping away? Blake lets out a breath that sounds almost like a laugh, but isn't. I feel it changing, she admits. And maybe that's inevitable. Maybe being liked isn't the same as being respected. Joy studies her. Are you prepared to lose fans over this? Blake meets her gaze without hesitation. I'm prepared to lose illusions. That answer hits harder than expected. The audience breaks into applause, this time loud, unmistakable, cutting through the tension like a release valve. Joy allows it, then raises her hand gently for quiet. One more thing, she says. There are whispers, Hollywood whispers, that this legal feud is already reshaping how people see you behind closed doors. Meetings. Projects. Trust. Is that happening? Blake's expression darkens, just a shade. Hollywood has a short memory for talent, she says, and a long memory for controversy. Joy nods knowingly. So what keeps you going? Blake doesn't look at Joy when she answers. She looks straight into the camera. My children, she says. My integrity. And the belief that someday, when all of this noise dies down, the truth won't need defending. The studio goes silent. Even Joy seems momentarily taken aback by the directness. Then Joy speaks again, softer now. Do you regret coming on this show today? Blake considers the question, truly considers it. Then she shakes her head. No, she says. Because silence only protects the people who benefit from it. That line sends a visible ripple through the room. Heads nod. Faces tighten. Somewhere, beyond the studio walls, social media is already exploding. Joy leans back in her chair. This is one of the most intense conversations we've had at this table, she says honestly. And it's far from over. Blake gives a small, tired smile. I know. The camera pulls back slightly, capturing the entire panel, the audience, the charged air between them all. What began as an interview has turned into a reckoning, layered, unresolved, and deeply human. And as the segment edges toward its end, one thing is clear. Whatever verdict the courts eventually deliver, this moment, this confrontation, has already left its mark. Because once you speak your truth on live television, there's no taking it back. When the cameras finally stop rolling, the silence feels louder than the confrontation ever did. The applause fades, not because the audience is uninterested, but because they don't quite know how to react. Some people stand. Others remain frozen in their seats, eyes still locked on Blake Lively as if she might say something more, something that explains everything. But she doesn't. She simply exhales, long and slow, as though she's been holding her breath for an entire hour. Joy Behar breaks the stillness first. Off camera now, her voice loses its sharp edge. That took courage, she says quietly. Blake nods, offering a polite smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. It took honesty, she replies. And honesty is exhausting. The studio lights dim slightly as producers move in, signaling the end of the segment. But the moment is far from over. In fact, it's only beginning. Within minutes, clips of the exchange flood social media. Headlines start forming in real time. Blake Lively under fire on The View. Joy Behar pushes Blake Lively to the edge. A-lister breaks silence amid legal war. The phrasing varies, but the message is the same. This wasn't just television. This was a cultural flashpoint. Backstage, Blake sits alone for a moment, staring at her phone as notifications explode across the screen. Supportive messages pour in from fans who praise her composure, her vulnerability, her refusal to crumble. But there's another side too. Comments questioning her motives, accusing her of deflection, of privilege, of playing the victim. The internet, as always, has already chosen its sides. Outside the studio, reporters gather, shouting questions she doesn't answer. Cameras flash as she walks past, chin lifted, expression guarded. Every step feels heavier than the last. She knows this image will circulate too, paused, zoomed, dissected. Even silence becomes a statement. Inside the studio, Joy watches the footage replay on a monitor. She's done this long enough to recognize when something has landed. This did more than land, it detonated. One of the producers shakes their head in disbelief. That's going to dominate the news cycle. Joy sighs. It already is. By the end of the day, major networks are debating the interview. Pundits argue over whether Joy pushed too hard or not hard enough. Legal experts weigh in on what Blake said and what she didn't. Advocacy groups pull quotes to support opposing narratives. The conversation fractures, multiplies, grows louder. Justin Baldoni's legal team releases a brief statement hours later, carefully worded, acknowledging the interview without directly responding to it. The silence only fuels speculation. Fans notice. Critics notice. Everyone notices. Blake, meanwhile, retreats from the noise. At home, away from the lights and cameras, the weight finally hits her. She sits quietly, replaying moments from the interview in her mind. The questions, the pauses, the looks from the audience. She wonders which words will follow her for years, and which ones will be forgotten by tomorrow. But one thing is certain, she can't unring this bell. The next morning, The View opens with a recap of the segment. The audience applause is louder this time, charged with recognition. Joy addresses it head-on. Yesterday's conversation struck a nerve, she says. And that tells us it mattered. Social media trends confirm it. Blake Lively's name sits at the top of search results. Clips rack up millions of views. Comment sections overflow with debate. Some call her brave. Others call her calculated. Very few remain neutral. And maybe that's the real aftermath, not the verdicts yet to come in court, but the way a single conversation forced people to confront their own assumptions. About fame. About power. About silence and speech. For Blake, the confrontation on The View becomes a turning point. Not a resolution, but a marker. A moment when she chose to step into the fire instead of circling it. Whether history will judge her kindly remains uncertain. But history will remember the moment she spoke. For Joy Behar, it's another reminder of why the table matters. Why uncomfortable questions still have a place in a world addicted to outrage but allergic to depth. And for the audience, both in the studio and at home, it becomes something else entirely. A mirror. A test. A question that lingers long after the screen goes dark. Because what do we really want from our celebrities? Perfection? Confession? Or simply the truth, even when it's incomplete? Now it's your turn. Was Blake Lively brave for facing the fire? Or did she avoid the answers people deserved? Did Joy Behar push accountability? Or cross a line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This conversation doesn't end here. If you want more explosive confrontations, deep dives into celebrity controversies, and cinematic storytelling that puts you inside the moment, make sure you subscribe to Prime Talk. Like this video, share it with someone who has an opinion, and stay tuned, because the next story is already unfolding.